talk to me about how YouTube distorts. See that you can take this question a few different ways, but distorts Christianity or the Christian life, because there very
Mm,
much is a distortion that's going on in this medium. You cannot have a medium like this, which again, I like you was surprised just how much you could do with it. But
mhm.
I'm also very conscious of the distortion. Like this lens I'm using right here, probably a little bit more into photography than you were. This is a fairly this one isn't as wide angle as that one, but I know that, for the one thing, I'm almost 6'5", and people when they meet me in person are like, you know, well, that's because there's a distortion. I'm only this big in YouTube land. If you watch me on your phone, I'm only this big. So when you meet me in real life, you're really big. So how do you think YouTube distorts? Well, and you can take this broadly because it's the church, it's the Christian life, Christianity, if we can talk in those terms. What are your thoughts?
I'll be curious your thoughts on this too. I think the one thing is the extremes are always more visible.
Mm,
So, we talked earlier about Calvinism and how people find great significance in me being a Calvinist. I'll be doing a talk on some topic that's, from my vantage point, not really related to Calvinism very much. It might be some aspect of the doctrine of God or something like this. And I'll see all these comments about, well, because Ortlund's a Calvinist, comma, dot, dot, dot. And you're like, oh, okay, here, yeah. And it's like, this is a big deal for them. But then I slow down and I realize I totally get it, because what they have seen represented by that label is more extreme than what I have experienced as represented by that label. And I completely understand where they're coming from in reacting like that. And that's just one example where it seems like everything is more combative, everything is more extreme. I think this especially happens on Twitter more than YouTube, because Twitter tends to, or I guess X we now call it, it tends to reward the outrage and it tends to reward snark. And I think that's so toxic that it actually fuels some really ugly human tendencies. And I think YouTube can do that. I think it's less, maybe not, doesn't have all the same things as Twitter, but there's a danger there of always being, because, we know what generates clicks. And if you comment on a current event and you're outraged about that current event and you scare people, if
yeah.
you're both angry and if you're scaring people at how angry you are, this is going to generate more views, all other factors being equal. And that's dangerous and it distorts things. And it's, the broader thing here is that actually a lot of things about the world are better now than they were 20 years ago. But the news and everything that comes at us makes us feel like the sky is always falling. And so that's a huge danger. And earlier we mentioned how I wrestle with this. I regularly wrestle with, how do I both kind of navigate in this space and be mindful of best practices and yet not succumb to the bad aspects of those best practices. And that's a tension. On the one hand, it's okay to comment on current events, and it's okay sometimes to speak with more force when appropriate. And there are these theological differences we have to work through. And so like with apologetics, there's some downsides to apologetics. At the same time, you know, I see people having anxiety about, oh, the church fathers, a lot of them are citing these deuterocanonical books as scripture. What do I do? Or, oh, the Bible has these verses about slavery that are harder than I thought they were, you know? And so you want to give resources to people, help them, and give a defense. But at the same time, you don't want to succumb to all the negative things that can sometimes characterize apologetics.
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of tensions I regularly wrestle with.